Have you ever found yourself completely consumed by thoughts of someone, a person who keeps entering your mind no matter how much you try to distract yourself? It's like your mind won't let go of them. And here's the thing, maybe, just maybe, there's a reason for it. God might be telling you something profound through those thoughts. Today we're going to explore what it could mean and how you can respond with grace, faith, and courage. Before we dive in, I just want to take a quick moment to invite you to join this community. If you're finding value in what we're sharing, I'd love for you to take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. And if this message resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Together, we're building a space where authenticity, vulnerability, and growth can thrive. Thank you for being here. Let's get started. When we talk about God speaking to us, we often imagine grand, dramatic signs, a booming voice from the heavens, an undeniable miracle, or a clear, unmistakable moment of clarity. But here's the truth. God speaks in ways that are subtle, sometimes so quiet that we almost miss it. It's not always about the loud, the flashy, or the obvious. Often, God's messages come through the unseen, in moments that might seem insignificant, but are deeply significant in the way they shape our lives. Think about those moments when a thought about someone enters your mind, seemingly out of nowhere. It's persistent, and you can't shake it. You might wonder why they're on your heart, especially if the thought doesn't seem to make sense or align with anything happening in your life. It's easy to brush this off as just a random thought or coincidence, but what if that's God speaking to you? What if these thoughts are not just fleeting moments, but are divine nudges? God's voice often comes not in the loud, obvious ways we expect, but in the quiet moments when we least expect it. It's the still, small voice that tugs on your heart, calling you to pay attention. When someone keeps coming to your mind, it could be an invitation to show love, to forgive, to reach out, or simply to reflect on how this person is impacting your life in ways you may not fully understand yet. You might not always know the reason behind the thought, but the fact that it lingers might be your first clue that God is speaking. In our fast-paced world, we are constantly distracted by the noise around us. Our work, our schedules, the demands of life. It's hard to hear anything, let alone the subtle whispers of God. But God's presence isn't always in the loud or obvious. It's often in the quiet, the thoughts you can't shake, the feelings that emerge when you least expect it. Those are the times God might be trying to get your attention. These moments are invitations to pause, reflect, and listen more intently. They are not coincidences. They are opportunities to engage with God's work in your life. Sometimes we don't hear God because we're so focused on seeking Him in ways we expect, rather than being open to how He's already working. His messages often come through the people we're thinking about, the situations that keep resurfacing, or the quiet nudges we get to take action. It might not be a loud proclamation, but rather a small, quiet prompting that invites us to dig deeper. When you can't stop thinking about someone, it could be a sign that God is asking you to respond in a way that reflects His love, His grace, and His presence in that relationship. Whether it's extending forgiveness, offering a listening ear, or simply praying for that person, God is often at work through these moments, even if we can't see it clearly right away. The unseen work of God isn't always dramatic. In fact, it's often imperceptible, a soft breeze that moves quietly through the moments of our lives. But if we are paying attention, we can feel its presence. We can sense when something is being gently nudged in our hearts. God's voice doesn't need to be loud to be profound. It can be quiet and still, but no less powerful. It's in these subtle, seemingly ordinary moments that God often works His most extraordinary transformations in our lives. When you can't stop thinking about someone, it can be easy to get caught up in wondering why this person keeps entering your mind. Your first reaction might be confusion, frustration, or even annoyance, especially if it doesn't seem to make sense in the context of your day-to-day life. However, I want you to understand something deeply important. There is a purpose behind those thoughts. There's divine intention behind the people and situations God brings to your mind, even when you don't immediately grasp it. We live in a world that often feels like it's rushing forward with everything happening at breakneck speed. We're bombarded with constant distractions, our to-do list, our work, our relationships. And it's easy to assume that thoughts of someone are just a random passing thought or a fleeting distraction. But God doesn't work in randomness. He works with intention, with purpose. And when someone continues to appear in your thoughts, it's because God is trying to get your attention. Perhaps that person is on your mind because God is asking you to learn something. Maybe there's an area of your heart that needs healing, and that person is the key to unlocking that healing. Or maybe you're being called to pray for them, to intercede on their behalf in ways that you don't yet fully understand. It's easy to assume that the thoughts you have about others are about the other person, but what if those thoughts are meant to shift something in you? What if God is guiding you through a process of growth, using that person to help you develop a deeper capacity for love, compassion, forgiveness, or patience? It could also be that God is asking you to take action. Maybe you're being called to reach out to that person, to offer a kind word, or to extend an olive branch. You might feel unsure about whether you should or hesitant to take the first step, but trust that when God places someone on your heart like this, it's not accidental. He's preparing you to be an instrument of His love, grace, and reconciliation in ways that you can't yet fully comprehend. If you feel a deep pull toward reaching out or helping or simply checking in, trust that it's a nudge from God to align your heart with His. But what if you don't know why you're thinking about someone? What if it feels like a mystery that you can't solve, a question without an answer? Here's the beauty of trust. Even when we don't know the full picture, God does. And sometimes He asks us to trust in the process, even if we can't see where it's leading. We don't always need to understand everything immediately. The purpose in the thought might not be clear at first, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Sometimes it's in the act of trust itself, choosing to believe that there is purpose in the thought, that we begin to see how God is working. There are also times when God uses these persistent thoughts to guide us toward a change in perspective. Perhaps the reason someone keeps coming to your mind is because you need to examine how you've been relating to them or how you've been viewing them. Maybe it's an invitation to shift your attitude, your approach, or your understanding of the situation. God can use these persistent thoughts as a way to challenge our assumptions and stretch our hearts. It's a chance for growth, to move beyond our limited human understanding and to see people through His eyes, not ours. Trusting that there is purpose in the thought requires us to release control. We can't always predict how God will work or why He places certain people in our hearts at certain times, but we can trust that He knows what He's doing. He sees the bigger picture, and His plans are far greater than our own limited vision. When we trust that there's purpose behind our thoughts, we open ourselves up to the possibility that God is doing something deep in our hearts, something that might take time to fully unfold. And in that waiting, in that trust, we grow stronger and more aligned with His will. So the next time you can't stop thinking about someone, don't dismiss it as a coincidence. Don't brush it off as just a random thought. Take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, what is God trying to teach me through this? What is He inviting me to do with this thought? Trust that even if you don't have all the answers right away, there is divine purpose in the thought, and God is working in ways you might not fully understand just yet. Stay open, stay faithful, and trust that His purpose will unfold in the time and way He deems best. When we are faced with a situation that keeps pulling at our hearts, especially when we can't stop thinking about someone, the natural impulse is often to take control. We want to fix things, to resolve the situation, or to make things go our way. It's a deeply human instinct, and it's rooted in our desire for certainty, stability, and safety. But here's the thing. Stepping into courage doesn't mean trying to control everything. In fact, true courage is about letting go of control and choosing to respond with faith, vulnerability, and trust. When God places someone on your heart and you feel that constant pull to act, it can be tempting to immediately jump into action, trying to orchestrate the outcome. You might feel the need to fix things, whether it's a relationship that needs mending, a person you care about who is struggling, or even a situation that feels unresolved. You might start overthinking every possible scenario, preparing for what you will say, and rehearsing all the ways you will control the conversation or the outcome. But this drive to control often comes from a place of fear. The fear of uncertainty, the fear of being vulnerable, or the fear of things not turning out the way we hope. God, however, doesn't ask us to control outcomes. He asks us to step into courage, which often means taking action with no guarantee of the result. It's about choosing to move forward even when you don't have all the answers. It's about trusting that even when things don't go according to your plan, God is still at work. Courage is not about having a perfect script or a plan to follow. It's about having the strength to be vulnerable, to put your heart into something even when it feels uncertain, and to trust that God will use your efforts, even if they don't lead to the outcome you initially expected. Stepping into courage means embracing the unknown and not trying to micromanage the situation. It's about letting go of the need to control how everything plays out and trusting that God is in control, even in the messy, unpredictable moments. Courage is not always easy. It requires us to be brave enough to put ourselves out there, to extend grace, to risk rejection, or to open ourselves to being hurt. It's easy to hold back, to hide behind the desire for certainty and control, but true courage comes when we choose to step forward anyway. When we try to control the outcome, we often miss out on the beauty of what God is doing. Control can create walls that prevent us from being open, vulnerable, and authentic. But when we step into courage, we allow God to work in ways that are far beyond our understanding. We trust that He will take our small, courageous steps and multiply them in ways that are far more significant than we could ever plan or orchestrate on our own. It's important to recognize that stepping into courage doesn't always mean acting immediately. Sometimes courage looks like waiting. It means allowing God to prepare the right moment, the right words, and the right circumstances. It's about having the faith to wait for His timing, knowing that the courage to act when the moment comes will be far more powerful than any control you try to exert in advance. Courage often requires us to move forward in faith, even when we can't see the entire path ahead. Additionally, stepping into courage means embracing vulnerability. When we feel deeply about someone or something, there's always a risk involved. There's a risk that our feelings might not be returned, that we might not get the response we hope for, or that we might experience discomfort. But vulnerability is at the heart of courage. It's the willingness to be seen, to be honest, and to open up even when it feels scary. When you step into that space, trusting that God is with you, that's when you find the real power of courage. Not in the act itself, but in the trust you place in God through the process. Sometimes we have to accept that our actions won't always lead to the outcome we envision. This is where courage is truly tested. When we release our need for control and allow God to be in charge of the results. We may not know how things will unfold, but we trust that our steps of courage, taken in faith, are part of something much bigger. God is working in ways we cannot always see, and He often uses our vulnerability and our willingness to step into the unknown to bring about growth, healing, and transformation, not just in the person we're thinking about, but in ourselves as well. Stepping into courage means acknowledging that you don't have to have it all figured out. It's okay to not know exactly what to say or do. It's okay to not have all the answers. What matters is that you take the step, trusting that God will provide what you need when you need it. Courage is about showing up, not having all the answers, but trusting that God will work through your willingness to be open and vulnerable. When we let go of our desire to control and instead step forward in courage, we align ourselves with God's will, trusting that He will use us in powerful ways that we might never have anticipated. So the next time you feel that persistent thought about someone, don't let the desire to control the outcome stop you from taking courageous action. Trust that God has a purpose and that your courage to step into the unknown, to be vulnerable and to trust in His plan will lead to something far greater than any control or certainty you could ever impose. Step into that courage, release the need to control, and watch as God does His work in ways that only He can. When you find yourself unable to stop thinking about someone, or when a particular situation continues to resurface in your mind, it's easy to brush it off as a mere coincidence. We live in a world that often encourages us to view life through a lens of randomness. We're told that things just happen by chance, and that many of the thoughts or events in our lives have no deeper meaning. But what if I told you that nothing in life is truly a coincidence? What if, instead, everything has a purpose, a divine purpose? Even when we don't fully understand it, God's hand is at work behind the scenes in every area of our lives, even when we don't immediately recognize it. If you find yourself constantly thinking about a person, a situation, or a particular need, it's more than just a random occurrence. This is not a coincidence. God is intentional in His ways, and He often uses the smallest moments to call us to attention, to guide us, and to teach us lessons that we might not even be aware of yet. The truth is, there is purpose behind every thought, every feeling, and every person who enters our lives. When someone keeps coming to mind, it's not by accident. It's a divine prompt, a gentle whisper from God, calling you to act or to reflect. It could be that you need to reach out to that person, offer a word of encouragement, or even ask for forgiveness. God may be nudging you to check in with them, pray for them, or to simply offer a listening ear. What feels like a coincidence is often a reminder that God is moving, orchestrating moments in your life with intention. We often view life's events in isolation, thinking that the things that happen to us are unconnected or unrelated. But the more we grow in faith, the more we begin to realize that everything is part of a bigger picture. Your thoughts and feelings aren't random. They are a reflection of God's purpose unfolding in your life. If you feel drawn to someone, there's likely a reason for it. God might be trying to teach you something about compassion, about vulnerability, or about your own spiritual growth. He might be asking you to play a part in someone's life that you haven't fully recognized yet. Think about the times when you've experienced what seemed like an insignificant encounter or a random meeting. How many times have you been in the right place at the right time and only later realized that what appeared to be coincidence was actually part of God's plan? Those seemingly random moments are often divinely orchestrated, even if we don't understand their significance at first. You might meet someone at a cafe, bump into an old friend on the street, or find yourself in a conversation that you didn't plan for, and you later realize that it was more than just chance. It was God working through those moments, weaving together the threads of your life in ways that are beyond your understanding. When you think about someone, don't discount it as coincidence. Stop and ask yourself, what might God be trying to tell me through this thought? Why is this person on my mind today? There could be a lesson to learn, a relationship to nurture, or a situation that needs resolution. God often uses these moments to invite us into a deeper relationship with Him and to help us grow in our understanding of His purpose for our lives. The person you're thinking about might not even be aware of what's happening, but you might be the one who is meant to help them in some way, to pray for them, or to be a light in their lives. Another important aspect of realizing that there are no coincidences in life is understanding that God uses our experiences, whether joyful or painful, to mold us and shape us. Sometimes we think that the people or events in our lives are merely coincidental because we can't immediately see how they fit into the larger narrative of our lives. But God sees the beginning and the end. And He knows exactly how every person, every experience, and every moment fits into the masterpiece He is creating. For example, if someone you care about keeps coming to your mind, it might be an invitation to heal a wound, extend grace, or make amends. It might not make sense to you right now, but trust that God is weaving those thoughts and feelings together for your growth and for the growth of that person. You might not understand why now, but years from now, you might look back and see how that coincidence was actually a pivotal moment in your journey. God is always working behind the scenes, even when we don't see it. The situations, the people, and the experiences that fill our lives are not by accident. Whether it's someone you can't stop thinking about, a difficult relationship, or a situation that feels unresolved, trust that it is not a coincidence. There is divine purpose in it. It may not be immediately clear, but God has a plan for every thought, every encounter, and every person He places in your life. When we recognize that there are no coincidences, we begin to look at life through a different lens. We start to see the hand of God at work in the seemingly ordinary and extraordinary moments of our lives. We begin to trust that each moment, each thought, and each person is part of a bigger picture, a divine plan that is unfolding in ways we might not yet understand. But if we stay open, stay prayerful, and stay present, we will begin to see how these coincidences are actually moments of divine connection, leading us towards something far greater than we could have imagined. So the next time you can't stop thinking about someone or a situation, don't brush it off as coincidence. Take a moment to reflect and ask God what He's trying to reveal to you through that thought. Trust that there is a purpose behind it and know that God is always working in the orchestrating the details of your life with perfect timing and divine intention. Life is full of mysteries, and often the more we try to understand everything, the more elusive it becomes. The desire to have all the answers, to control the outcome, is a natural instinct that comes from our need for security and understanding. We want to know what will happen next, why things are the way they are, and how everything fits together. But what if, instead of trying to control the future or solve the mysteries of life, we embraced them? What if we chose to release our need for certainty and simply let go of the outcome, trusting that the journey itself is where the magic happens? We live in a world that is constantly seeking clarity, whether it's about our relationships, our careers, or even our spiritual journey. We are often driven by the desire to know what will happen, to understand how everything fits together. It's tempting to think that if we could just figure everything out, if we could just control every part of our lives, we'd finally feel at peace. But the truth is, peace comes not through control, but through surrender. It's in embracing the mystery of life, the things we can't explain, the things we don't have the answers to, that we find freedom. The reality is, we don't have control over the outcome of everything. We can't always predict what's going to happen or why things unfold the way they do. But when we try to hold tightly to the outcome, when we demand that things go according to our plan, we close ourselves off from the beautiful, mysterious ways that God is working. Sometimes we're not meant to have all the answers. Sometimes we're meant to lean into the unknown, to trust that even when we don't understand, there's a greater purpose at work. Think about a time when you didn't know how things were going to turn out. Maybe it was a situation where you had to take a leap of faith or a decision that didn't have a clear, guaranteed outcome. In those moments, it's easy to feel anxious, uncertain, and even afraid. The fear of the unknown can be overwhelming, and we can get caught up in trying to make things happen on our terms. But if we're being honest with ourselves, it's in those moments of uncertainty that we often experience the most growth, the most transformation. It's when we let go of the need to control everything that we make room for God to work in ways we could never have imagined. When we embrace the mystery of life, we acknowledge that there is much we don't understand, and that's okay. It's a humbling realization, but it's also a freeing one. By letting go of the need to have all the answers, we open ourselves up to the possibility that God is doing something bigger than we can see. He is working in the unseen, orchestrating things in ways that we might not understand right now. And often the outcome we're hoping for may not be the one that God has planned for us. His plans are always greater than our own, and sometimes they take us down unexpected paths that we never could have imagined. Letting go of the outcome doesn't mean we don't care. It doesn't mean that we stop trying or that we don't put our heart into what we do. It simply means that we trust God with the results. It's an act of faith, a willingness to trust that He knows what's best for us, even when it doesn't look the way we envisioned. When we let go of the outcome, we give God the space to work to bring about results that are far beyond what we could have hoped or dreamed. This doesn't mean that we become passive or detached from life. Embracing the mystery and letting go of the outcome requires courage. It requires vulnerability because it asks us to step into the unknown with faith, to move forward without knowing exactly how things will unfold. It's trusting that we are being guided even when the path isn't clear. It's allowing ourselves to be surprised by what God has in store for us. In relationships, letting go of the outcome means releasing our desire to control how things go with others. Whether it's a friendship, a romantic relationship, or a family dynamic, we can't control how people will respond, what decisions they will make, or how they will treat us. But we can control how we show up, how we love, how we offer grace, and how we respond in faith. We can choose to act with love and kindness and trust that God is working in that relationship, even if we don't see immediate results. Sometimes the most profound changes happen in the unseen, behind the scenes, in ways we will only come to understand later. In our spiritual journeys, embracing the mystery and letting go of the outcome means trusting that God is leading us, even when the path feels uncertain. We may not always understand why things happen the way they do, but we can trust that God has a purpose for everything. His timing is perfect, even when we feel like we're waiting too long or things aren't happening on our timetable. It's about trusting that He is faithful and that He is working in the waiting, shaping us and preparing us for what's ahead. Letting go of the outcome is also about accepting that things might not go the way we hope or expect. There are times when life takes unexpected turns and the outcome we envision doesn't come to fruition. That can be painful, frustrating, and disheartening. But even in those moments, we have to trust that God's plan is better than our own. It's in those times of disappointment that we often learn the most, that we grow in our faith and that we become more aligned with God's will for our lives. We learn that the journey is just as important, if not more so, than the destination. The mystery of life is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. When we let go of our need to control everything, we allow ourselves to be led by something greater than ourselves. We give ourselves the freedom to be vulnerable, to trust, and to walk forward in faith, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. The outcome is in His hands, and His hands are trustworthy. So embrace the mystery, let go of the outcome, and trust that the path you're on is leading you exactly where you need to go, even if you can't see it just yet. So if you can't stop thinking about someone, don't brush it off. Pause, listen, and ask, God, what are you trying to teach me through this? Embrace the thought with openness and curiosity. Trust that there is divine purpose behind it and let God lead you into action. Whether it's a call to forgive, to encourage, or to heal, trust that you are a part of something bigger than yourself. Step into the moment with courage, faith, and a willingness to embrace the mystery. Remember, God doesn't make mistakes, and if He's putting someone on your heart, there's a reason for it. So go forward with openness and trust and watch as God unfold His plan. You were made for this.